Good day. My name is Dr. Linnell Plummer, and I am the CEO and owner of Onyx Therapy Group. We are a Black woman, veteran owned mental health company based out of Washington, D.C. We have 3 offices in Washington, D.C., 4 offices in the state of Maryland, and 1 office in the state of Pennsylvania, located in the city of Pittsburgh. I'm here today to talk to you about stress and the coronavirus and some of the additional effects that it has on our body. Additionally, I'm going to talk about some other things that we can do to be successful during this time. You know, this is a really unique time for all of us. For most of us, it's probably our first time ever experiencing a pandemic, a national, international illness that is spreading quite quickly. I was looking at some statistics recently, and it said that the coronavirus in January, we had about 100 cases of coronavirus, and now we're definitely into the 6 figures, which is quite scary because it's spreading so rapidly. And some of the information wasn't always clear in the beginning, so we thought that certain groups were not as susceptible to getting the illness, and so subsequently we probably didn't do all the things that we could have done in the beginning. And so now our stress levels are steadily increasing as we're seeing the numbers steadily increasing. You know, for many of us, we may have thought that this was something that was going to pass quickly. And so we would, take a couple days off of work, stay home, do some things around the house maybe, and then get back into the groove of things as the spring approached. But now we see that that's not the case. And so we're experiencing higher levels of stress related to economic stress, physical health stress, stress of our family, concern about a range of things, big major things, but then also things that we might consider more smaller, like just changes to our general lifestyle and levels of comfort. So today I wanted to talk to you guys a bit more about some of the stress that we're experiencing, as well as some ways that we can address those stress issues. So as we talk about stress, we understand that a lot of it is based on how our body perceives stress. And so sometimes our minds don't necessarily perceive us as stress. So there's 2 different types of ways. So one is our body will naturally receive stress, and we're not even certain that we've experienced stress, especially if we're people that are used to experiencing stress often. We don't recognize that our heart is beating a lot faster, that our stomach is tightened up a bit, that our backs and chest have tightened up, and that maybe even some of our other muscles have tightened up. And that's because we're so used to experiencing stress that those things become quite natural for us, or that we have disconnected a bit from those experiences around stress. So the other element of it is that we experience stress in our mind, and that's different from being aware of the physical stress. That has more to do with understanding the psychological stress that we're experiencing, where we can actually articulate in the moment, I am quite stressed right now. And so in those moments, there's recommendations that we could do for either. So the first thing though is that if one is experiencing stress in their body and they're used to experiencing stress, the first thing we have to do is make you aware that you're experiencing stress, because only when you're aware can you put in some of the recommendations. And so one of the things to do is to sit right now while you're watching the video. You're probably not stressed. You're probably just like, hey, who's this lady with these big glasses? But while you're sitting there right now, see where your body feels the most relaxed. If it's in your shoulders, if it's in your legs, if it's in your stomach. So you would do a full body scan right now, starting at the top of your head, taking a deep breath, and you're just tracking your body. So you're kind of thinking, you're inhaling and you're thinking, and you're going down. And you're tracking, where do you feel anything? Do you feel tightness anywhere? And if you don't feel tightness anywhere, then you notice that your body is 100% relaxed, right? And so if at a different moment in the day, you go ahead, say you're working on a project, or you're helping your children with their homework because all of them are home from school now, at a random moment, go ahead and scan your body again. and see if you feel tightness anywhere. So the first thing to do if you're unaware of the stress that your body naturally experiences is to set your timer on your phone at random times, like 12:30 or 2:15, and then just stop when you hear the alarm and scan your body and see where the stress is. If there is stress in your body during those times, then you want to stop and think about what is happening in your environment that's creating that stress. Is it that you're working on something that has been very difficult for you? Is it something that has challenged your confidence or your sense of competence? Is it an interpersonal relationship? Is it you just got off the phone with one of your parents? Like what may be the case that's causing that stress? That's how you first figure out your physiological stress in your body. Of course, you're also going to feel it. You may also feel it in your stomach. People like me, I feel it most in my stomach and my upper back, but some people feel it in different places in their heads. They get migraine headaches, or their eyes start to hurt, or their jaws start to hurt because they're clenching their teeth and they're not even realizing it. The second element of recognizing stress is the psychological stress. That's the ones where we're able to say, hey, I feel stressed right now. Like, we're recognizing it. Either we are already experiencing the stress, or we anticipate that we're about to experience the stress. Like, we anticipate that something that has historically or based on pattern been a stress for us is about to show up again. And so we say, I am about to experience stress, or I'm feeling stress, which is a very healthy and normal thing to do. It is wonderful to be aware, to be able to say, I am experiencing this, or I'm about to experience that, because again, it gives you an opportunity to prepare yourself for what is about to come or what is currently happening, so you could decrease that. The reasons we want to decrease our stress levels, again, okay, as a reminder, there's two types of awareness around stress. There's the physiological stress, and then there's the psychological stress. And the reasons we need to know about these stresses when they're occurring in our lives is because they have other additional implications. And of course, there's tons of research out here, tons of books about stress and stress management. And so I don't have the opportunity right now to go into all of those things, but I wanted to talk about the ones that are most impactful for us right now. And those are the stresses that have implications on our organs, our body organs, so our skin, our stomach and esophagus, our heart and our lungs. All of those things can be highly impacted by stress. They can be altered to a degree that they cause additional illness. So, of course, stress in itself becomes a form of illness because of the implications on the organs, but it can also become quite worse if the organs are compromised to a large degree, and subsequently they are not functioning the way they need to. So again, there's the physiological piece of implications for stress, but then there's also the psychological and interpersonal implications for stress. And that's where we see anxiety forming, that's where we see depression forming, that's where we see poor communication skills, ineffective problem-solving processes, interpersonal relationships that get terribly skewed because of these different psychological factors. And so when we talk about our organ health, we're talking about things like, again, our skin. For some of us, we may notice that when we get extremely stressed out, our skin breaks out. We get acne, or we get other skin issues. We get an increase of maybe psoriasis and rosacea and things like that, because our skin is actually responding to the increased levels of stress, cortisol, adrenaline that is running through our body. And so it's trying to get those things out because it recognizes the stress as a foreign object. It recognizes the increase of those stress hormones as foreign. So it's trying to get them out as quickly as possible, and it's trying to get them out through our body. And so that happens through coming out through our skin. But another area where we often see stress showing up is in our gut health. And so when we think of our gut, we're thinking of maybe a little bit of our esophagus, but that's the pathway down to our stomach. We're thinking more of our stomach, our large intestines, and our small intestines. And some of us may notice that we're experiencing gut health issues during the time because our stomachs are hurting. Our stomachs, first, they're really tight, but then they hurt. That actual body area is experiencing pain. And it's no point in going into details about what that may look like, because if you've experienced it, you've experienced it. And so that's another major element. The other thing that we don't always talk about is that so many of our psychological hormones, like our serotonin and our dopamine, is stored in our gut. So if our gut health is bad, subsequently, we're not going to get the range of healthy hormones that we need in our brain for happiness, like serotonin or dopamine. And so it's really important to manage our stress levels if it's connected to our gut, because it will absolutely have an impact on our psyche. The next area, again, is our psychological health. And so that's the health, again, that's talking about how you're perceiving the world through anxious thoughts and lenses, through intrusive thoughts. Are you seeing it through a depressive lens where everything is less than? And in this time, it's quite tempting to see the world as less than, because our normal has been significantly changed. And we are communal people. In general, we are communal. And so to be in isolation feels very, very damaging, because we can't interact. And so although we get to have our videos and things like that, it's not quite the same. And I recognize that. And so we're already experiencing some bit of isolation and some bit of depression, because things are not how they normally are, which is how we have to deal with it, at least for the next couple weeks. Hopefully all of this will end at the end of April, and we could get back to our new normal and enjoy some of the springtime, the fresh air and the sun, which is all good for our mental health as well. So as we think about some recommendations, I'm going to look at a couple of my notes from some of my research that I've done in previous years, because I love to talk about stress, but not because I like stress, but because I know that there's so many different ways that we can overcome this stress, right? And so I love helping people think about different ways that they can do it in their own lives. I also recognize that right now I'm seeming quite boring, but I'm generally a very happy person, so you can always talk to me later. Anyhow, some of the ways that we're experiencing some of our stress right now is through emotional eating, and we're seeing memes about it all over social media and on the news and things like that. And what I believe, based off of my research and my studies, is that emotional eating is really a reflection of two things. Well, emotional eating is a reflection of an interpersonal deficit, right? So we are eating because we're feeling something. We're feeling happiness, or we're feeling sadness, we're feeling disappointment, we're feeling confusion, we're feeling, excitement, whatever we're feeling. And because we're not necessarily in a place where we can articulate those emotions and have somebody to talk to about that, or have that person participate with us in a reciprocal kind of conversation, we turn to eating. And so emotional eating, not physiological eating in which your body needs to eat, but the emotional eating is more of a reflection of an interpersonal deficit, right? And again, that's based off my research, Dr. Plummer. So it may be controversial at times, but the idea is that if we can increase our interpersonal relationships, our interpersonal actions, then we're less likely to emotionally eat, because we emotionally eat when our emotions are heightened and they're not, at the normal level that we're used to experiencing them. So right now, a lot of people are emotionally eating, and we're seeing memes about it all over the place, where people are saying they have like refrigerators behind bars, and they're saying how much weight they're going to gain during this COVID time. People are saying like, I'm a gain COVID-19, right? Like I'm a gain 19 pounds, which does not necessarily have to be the place unless one is actually hungry, right? Then you eat. But if you're hungry, your body is going to naturally burn it off anyway. So the emotional eating part is when we're kind of overeating because our emotions are there. So instead of emotionally eating, what I recommend is that you get on the phone with one of your friends. Get on the phone, a FaceTime, a text message, a group chat, um, go onto an old chat group, if that's sort of your thing. Talk to a person that you have been wanting to talk to but never knew how to initiate a conversation. Go ahead and initiate that conversation. What do you have to lose right now, right? They're not in front of your face. They can't like actually do anything. So go ahead and initiate the conversation with them. Start up a conversation and just kind of see how it goes. But it's much better to initiate an interpersonal conversation with one of your friends or somebody that you're interested in knowing than to turn to food, because the food is not actually going to fulfill you, neither physically nor emotionally. It doesn't serve that purpose. So you're not going to get what you need. If you're already full, the food is just going to make your stomach hurt. And if you are emotionally deficit, it's not going to be helpful at all. It's going to need you to adjust your emotions and to address them with someone. The other thing is that sometimes we eat because we think we're hungry, but we're not quite hungry. And that's a reflection of stress again. Also, as stress enters, our circuits, our mental circuits and pathways are not technically clear. So it's not like think about a street. It's not a clear street. There's these roadblocks kind of in the way when we're stressed. And it's the reasons that we're not thinking all the way clearly. And so sometimes people end up eating when they're actually thirsty. And so one of the things that I suggest doing also in these times of high stress is to keep water near you. I keep about a 50-ounce water near me, and I challenge myself to drink it throughout the day. Some people write on their bottles what time they want to have a certain amount of water consumed, and you can do that too. But keep in mind that when we're stressed, we generally, our body thinks it's been conditioned to want food, and sometimes it's conditioned to want something sweet or something sour, when in actuality, it just needs water to balance it out. So keep some water near you as you're experiencing these high levels of stress. Another thing to do is to make a routine. If you're generally at work, like you're leaving your house to go to work, or your children are at school, generally they have a routine, right? Everybody gets to work at a certain time. You load up your materials that you need, whether it's a laptop or your machines or whatever the case may be. You organize your materials. You have a set time, a set routine in which you do everything, and that structure allows you to be successful in that workplace. Well, allow that same structure and routine to happen in your own home. Maybe as a family, you guys still wake up at a certain time. You all still do work or academic materials at a certain time. You eat lunch at a certain time. You maybe work out and go outside for fresh air at a certain time. The point of the routines is for the level of predictability. We tend to feel less stressed when we understand what is expected of us and what is coming next. And so as you are in charge of being able to set out what is going to be next. You know, there's a temptation to take this time, this Corona time, like vacation, and just kind of laissez-faire around the house. However, it doesn't necessarily allow for routine and predictability, and so subsequently one may feel stressed after this time, saying that they didn't do the things that they wanted to do. As you're setting up that routine, make sure you have accountability partners. It's great if your children could be your accountability partners. Mine are 13 and 16, so they definitely want to hold me accountable, especially for movie night. But if you don't have an accountability partner like in your home already, then find an accountability partner. Another thing that me and some of my friends were able to do is to form a group of 6 women and hold ourselves accountable for our daily movement and exercise, and also water consumption. So find a friend or two that's disciplined. Either you may be the most disciplined person in the group and you're egging everybody on and motivating everybody, or you may find somebody else who's pretty disciplined and they're helping you and egging you on too. So make sure you find an accountability partner. It could be a coworker, it could be a friend, it could be a neighbor, it could be anyone who you feel like you would want to talk to throughout the day just to make sure you're accomplishing the things that are important to you, especially as they're related to that routine. The other thing about an accountability partner is they're also the person you could vent to in the event that you're feeling stressed about something, right? Like this routine just isn't working exactly how I want it. How can I tweak it? Well, you can talk to that accountability partner because they're likely going through the exact same thing. In terms of increasing your interactions with people, making sure that you use technology to the best of your ability. I recognize that everybody doesn't have a grand use of technology. So, whatever your use of technology is, whether it's using apps on your phone that allows you to stay connected to people, or whether it's apps on your laptop. I'm a fan of Zoom, making Zoom happy hours, making Zoom brunches. We're planning a Zoom brunch on Sunday. Super cool. We'll be cooking all in our kitchen together and laughing and talking. But it'll be a great time for us to talk, which comes quite easily when you're on video or on the phone versus texting, because texting is cool for brief conversations, but it also doesn't necessarily allow for a general flow because there's always this major pause while you're waiting for somebody else to respond. So use your technology as much as you can to stay connected. Maybe you guys are watching movies like Self-Made, and a group of you all are going to get together and deconstruct the movie and create a form of synthesis and figure out what you want to do, how you want to integrate some of those aspects into your life. So it would be like a movie club, right? And you do that once a week, or a TV club. If you're watching shows like Real Housewives and things like that, you can go ahead and deconstruct that and talk about it with your friends. So make sure that you stay connected with people through the ways that you can. I recognize that some folks are also hanging out with their neighbors in social distancing. I saw some pictures about people being in different driveways or being in the parking lot and keeping space with each other, but still hanging out and talking. Of course, they have to scream a little bit louder, but it's still fun to be outside and see people that you care about, as long as you're keeping distance and you're following the laws of your county and your state. Making sure that in the event that you can't get outside, that you at least sit by a window. You open your window once a day and you get some fresh air in. You get to hear the birds that are outside. You get to hear the noise that are outside, the noise that makes up your community. You get to see get some sunlight, which helps with your dopamine levels as well. So make sure you at least sit by a window for about 15 to 30 minutes a day. Now, what you do by the window is all up to you. You can watch TV, you can read a book, you can journal, you can sketch, you can make waist beads, you can do your hair, you can do whatever you want to do, but just make sure that you're getting some time where you're like intentionally sitting by a window and getting some fresh air every day. Even on rainy days, you want to still open up that window and get some of that fresh air in the house, because that will actually decrease your stress levels. The more H2O you have in your body, the more oxygen, right, that you have through air and through water, it'll naturally decrease your stress levels. It's why us as therapists say that when people are stressed, they need to go outside and do something. The expectation is that you're going outside, you're getting some fresh air, and that's going to decrease some of your stress levels. Of course, it's easy to say to exercise. For some, exercise comes quite easily. For others, it's a bit of a nuisance. But exercise doesn't necessarily mean that you're running around in your neighborhood running and doing cardio. It could mean that you're doing squats in your living room, or that you're doing light arm curls with a can of beans. You don't have to use heavy weights or anything like that, but you just want to keep your body agile and mobile. And as you do that, you're going to feel more accomplished anyway, and that's going to increase your happy feelings. So keep some cans around or some weights, and just randomly pick it up and start lifting some weights and things like that, doing a couple squats, things like that. Another thing that's going to be important is that you still do the things that make you feel good. If you're a person who likes to still get dressed up, then get dressed up. Don't just sit around in sweatpants and a sweatshirt because you don't necessarily have to go to work. Get dressed for yourself. Put on some clothes for yourself. I certainly put on some perfume today, and I'm not going anywhere except in this office, and you guys cannot smell my perfume, but it makes me feel good to smell my own perfume. And so do things that make you feel good. Burn the candle, put on the perfume, put on the nice shirt, put on the jacket, put on the dress that you've been wanting to wear, and wear it around your house because you're doing it for you and you're doing it to decrease your stress levels and then increase your happy feelings. So still get dressed if getting dressed is what feels good for you. Still put on those earrings or shave up your mustache or your beard, do the things that feel good for you. That includes playing around with your hair. We recognize that some folks are not able to go to the hair salons right now because they're closed down because they're not essential. Who'd have thought? Anyhow, make sure you're still doing the things that feel good to you. So if getting your hair done and playing with your hair is something that feels good, then go ahead and do it. Don't wait until a special occasion to do these certain things. Don't wait until work comes back around to do the things that make you feel good. Put on the lipstick, get the hair, play with your own hair, shave up your beard, do the things that normally make you feel good and confident, and continue to do them even while you're at home. Another thing is when you are experiencing stress, interpersonal stress, like I said, sometimes it cuts off the circuits in our towards our frontal lobe. And so we're not thinking the way that we normally would think. We're not functioning the way we would normally function. So I want to make sure that you all are paying attention to how you are solving problems while you're in quarantine, as well as how you are communicating when you are in quarantine. The problem solving process is a 4-step process. It's identify the problem, identify how you feel, identify the problem, identify and express how you feel, come up with 2 to 3 solutions for the problem that includes your feelings, that is fair and just and equitable for everyone involved, and then implement one of those solutions. So again, identify the problem, identify and express your feelings, find 2 to 3 solutions that are fair and just and equitable for everyone involved. And then the 4th step is to implement one of those solutions. So make sure you're going through the problem solving process. Right now, during these times of stress and quarantine, it's easy to just blame people. It's easy to be annoyed by every single thing that's around you and not quite figure out what the problem is. And that's quite uncomfortable if you're with someone in quarantine and they're blaming all the time, right? And they're not taking the time to figure out what the true problem is. So I'm encouraging you to take time, figure out what your true problems are in these moments where you're getting annoyed. Making sure that you're not projecting, making sure that your insecurity, you're not putting on somebody else during these moments, and that your fear, you're not putting on somebody else, that you're managing yourself, which leads to communication. So there's a communication process as well. You're probably like, Doc, what is all these processes? But the communication process is to person 1 speaks, person 2 listens, and then summarizes, not responds. They listen and summarize. Then person 1 clarifies whether what 2 summarized was correct or not. And if it was correct, then now we go to person 2, who is now responding and talking. Then person 1 summarizes, and person 2 clarifies and says yes or no, that is what I was saying. And then the process goes back and forth. So person 1 speaks, person 2 listens and then summarizes. Then person 3 clarifies and confirms. Person 1. Then person 2 talks, responds. Person 1 listens and summarizes. And then person 2 clarifies or confirms. What this does is it allows for a linear process of talking through one's thoughts as well as one's feelings. It ensures that everyone gets an opportunity to speak. It ensures that the problem is properly addressed and that we are hearing what the other person is saying and not just hearing through our own filters and thoughts and perceptions about the person or what they may be implying, but actually what they're saying. So it causes us to slow down the process of it so we can listen, so we can hear, so we can feel, and so we can develop solutions that are long lasting and effective. So making sure we're using our problem solving process and our communication process as we're working through interpersonal stress and issues that may be arising in quarantine. And the last thing to do is to drink more water. I already talked about water, but water already has its own chemicals in it that are extremely important for our body, for our organs. We talked about the gut health and the skin health, the heart health, but water is also good as a replacement to wine. Everybody is talking about how much wine they're drinking and why the stores, the liquor stores, and the package stores are still open for as essential places, but it's quite tempting to go and drink more during this time as opposed to more, it's quite tempting to drink more wine and more liquor as opposed to water. And I really want to encourage you to just, every time you think that you're going to grab a glass of wine or a drink some water first. Drink about 4 to 8 ounces and then push off that time to drink that wine. Push it off by another 15, 20, 30 minutes and see if you still really need it later on. And the importance of that is that wine and liquor has its own chemical compounds in our body that can really impact our levels of stress. They can make us feel more depressed, or they can actually cause us to feel heightened around certain experiences and emotions that are not a true reflection and would make it quite difficult to use the communication process or the problem solving process. So try to be as preventative as possible and staying as present as you can by drinking more water than wine. And that also includes more water than juice, because juice has a lot of sugar in it. And some juice has artificial coloring in it also that can really change the chemical compounds in our body too. Remember, our bodies are made up of all chemicals, and all of these foods and drinks that we're drinking are chemicals too. So they can really cause an explosion if it's not the right chemicals at the right time. So I've spent quite a bit of time with you today, and I hope that you've enjoyed the time with me. As I will summarize real quick, make sure you are decreasing your emotional eating by increasing your time with friends, increasing your time with people that you want to meet virtually. You can do that through your Zoom links. You can do that through any technology that you're able to have. Keep water near you. Make sure you're drinking lots of water throughout the day, and even more water if you're tempted with wine and liquor. Form a routine that you can use consistently. It doesn't have to be the exact same routine Monday through Friday or over the weekend. It can change every day, but just know what your routine is in the morning of that particular day. Have an accountability partner or an accountability group. Make sure that you get some time near the windows and near your plants so you're getting some fresh air, so you're getting some new oxygen flowing through the house. Get dressed if it feels good to you. Do the things that you've been wanting to do, the projects you've been wanting to work on. Do the things that naturally feel good for you, or not naturally, but environmentally feel good for you, like getting dressed, doing your hair, whatever the case may be. Use your problem-solving process, the 4-step process. Identify the problem, identify and acknowledge your feelings, develop 2 to 3 solutions, and implement one of those solutions, as well as your communication process. And always feel comfortable finding a therapist. There are therapists that specialize in online therapy called telemental health. You should look to make sure that they are trained in telemental health. The easiest way to do that is look for a credential called DCC, so Distance Certified Counselor, or BCTMH, Board Certified Telemental Health Counselor. that would be at the end of their names. After their names and their degree, you would find that particular credential, BCC or BCTMH. It is the best way to determine whether somebody has been trained in telemental health. But absolutely 100% feel comfortable looking for a therapist during this time, especially if some of these things you're able to do, but you want a little bit more support as well. You can always reach out to us at Onyx Therapy Group. We will help you if we can provide therapy for you based off of our state regulations and such. We will. If not, we are more than happy to help you find a therapist based on your needs, based on your costs and your insurance, based on your comfort and time and convenience. We will do that for you also. Just reach out to us. We can be found at www.onyx, therapy, THERAPY, group, GROUP.com. www.onyxtherapygroup.com. And I hope to hear from you soon. I hope these tips were helpful for you as you address and get through some of your stress during COVID-19. I'll talk to you later. Have a good one.